It's so weird. I have a kind of a block with saying the words, I am an artist. It's almost like I can't bring myself to say it. I'm gonna say it. I consider myself an artist, first and foremost, and don't ever see myself as an illustrator, or I've even been called a graphic designer or a paper cutter. I never see myself as a paper cutter at all. I consider myself an artist and a printmaker. I studied printmaking at college, and that's something that's always stayed with me. The idea of being an artist was always to do with freedom of what you did. I do a lot of things, but I think the one thing that holds them all together is somehow within my work, I'm trying to produce something that has a meaning to me and is something that I can communicate with other people and offer to them in a way that it would benefit them. You know, my work has definitely got a storytelling side to it. There's generally a narrative, and it generally relates to people on a personal level. I see my work as to do with, you know, people and relationships and the needs of people and the things that they do to, you know, to live their lives and to fulfill them. I don't necessarily see my work as romantic. I think that might be a small aspect of it. The reasons I make the work are principally for myself. I always try and do pictures that have quite positive messages, because I'm trying to give myself positive messages. And I think, you know, naturally people read them as such. I do a lot of work in notebooks, and I'm always jotting down ideas, and sometimes the words actually describe a picture, which sounds ridiculous. Instead of drawing something, I'll actually write down how I want it to look rather than draw it. It's a canvas where I can work with words and images on the same plane. They have equal weight and equal value. I think there's definitely something within myself that pushes me to keep making something that's better than I made the day before. That's the whole point. And I mean, when people ask you, well, what's your favourite piece of work? It's a kind of glib answer, but you just think, well, I don't want to say that I've made that. You know, the whole point of doing this is you're trying to make something that is the best you can do. I'm feeling as if I'm trying to do different things and kind of push things further on. And sometimes you do something and you leave it and you do something else, but then you want to go back and try it again and do it better, you know. It's difficult to pinpoint where inspiration comes from. I think inspiration for me is very much tied into recording thoughts and recording images, whether it be a very quick note or a photograph or a sentence or something that occurs to me. I think my process of capturing inspiration is in note form. You know, I have loads and loads of sketchbooks. I just write things in them all the time. That moment of inspiration is something that you try and grab out of the air. You don't know where it's coming from, but you don't let it slip away. I think there was a certain attitude in a way when I was at college that using words was cheating. It was kind of like, well, if you have to depend on words to get your point over, then you're not a painter. I think I still have a hangover of that attitude left. There's something niggling me in the back of my mind that, is that true? Am I copping out by using words and pictures together like how I do? So I obviously think that there is a kind of a question to be answered of where words fit in. What I wanted to do originally when I started doing paper cutting was I wanted to edit words out of my pictures. I wanted to have a break from doing words, and this is 15 years ago. So I started doing these paper cuts that were folded in half. Paper was folded in half. I'd cut through one side and then I would open up. So you do half the picture, the other half would be reflected when you open it. And as such, in that form of work, if you did any text, it would come up back to front on the other page and look bonkers, you know. So in a way, my first paper cuts were a form of kind of self-censorship, whereby I was tying one hand behind my back to stop myself writing. And I for 18 months, all my first paper cuts were totally symmetrical folded paper, and I didn't have any words in them at all. So in a way, I was approaching it as I was approaching the medium from a form of self-regulation. For me, the thing that is nice about this show is not everybody could make it to see your work in the flesh from the rest of the country, you know. So the thing I feel strongest about the show and what enthuses me is the fact that we can pull together a good overview to present to people who can make it to YSP. For the image and the idea that we had for doing a special laser cut for YSP, we wanted to somehow breathe an extra kind of dimension into it. But what I wanted to do is I wanted it to have this kind of vibrancy and this kind of almost this kind of buzzy, glowing feeling that is the last thing you just can't get that in paper cutting. It just doesn't. It's a hard-edged thing. It's a hard silhouette. It doesn't have any glow, and to produce that within the paper cut was impossible. So we thought what we would try and do is print on the paper prior to it being laser cut to somehow break the hard line of its surface. It's just trying to do something different.